Hello, everybody. My name is James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. And on this area of TC, I don't want either of them to win. The good news for me is they can't both win. Let me firstly introduce you to our Arsenal correspondent, Adam Pritchard. How are you, Adam?
I'm doing all right, thanks, James.
And our Aston Villa correspondent, who's my preference to win this weekend, just for clarity, is Lee Jackson. How are you, Lee?
Yeah, not as good as I was a few weeks ago.
We shall cover. I'd like to cover off European competition first. We are pre-recording on Wednesday night. Adam, your reaction to last night's game with Bayern?
I think overall, now I've kind of had time to sit with it through the day a little bit. I'm less kind of angry. This was my overriding emotion after the final whistle. So yeah, I think I'm less angry now than I was immediately at full time. I feel a little bit disappointed because going into it, I think like yourself, James, and a lot of people were predicting maybe not a heavy Arsenal win, but certainly a comfortable one. And the way that we kind of reverted a little bit to type in Europe over recent years and showed moments of immaturity and a lack of composure where I think so much of our season in the Premier League has been typified by kind of maturity and showing composure and being controlled on the ball and out of possession. That just deserted us in two moments of, yeah, you almost don't know what to put them down to other than kind of inexperience and, yeah, just a bit of a head loss, really. And that's what ended up
if I just jump in, the maturity you'd shown, particularly in the Manchester City and Brighton away games, made us think that that was gone. It almost felt like there was moments on Tuesday night. It was almost a la old Arsenal.
Yeah,
we haven't seen
no.
it for quite a while, being genuine.
Yeah. And that was why it was almost more, not disappointing, perhaps isn't the right word. It was confusing because it wasn't like Bayern played us off the park. I think sometimes if a team either plays you off the park or kind of plays to your level and you come out with a draw, you can kind of accept it and then you have to move on. Whereas I feel like the two goals that Bayern scored ultimately came from Arsenal mistakes. With the first one, I guess you could say you've got three Arsenal errors in there. You've got Raya first coming out for no reason and not claiming the ball. So he cuts off passing option that Gabriel would have had. You've got Gabriel probably trying to be a bit too clever and give it to Kiwior, who's sort of on the half turn. He's not facing towards him. When in reality, I think probably most of us would have expected him just to like clear it into row Z. I think that probably would have been the safer option. And then you got Kiwior, sorry, kind of on his heels and also doesn't really respond when he loses the ball. He kind of just stands there, looks around, and then goes. So I think that goal was definitely the most irritating to concede. And once it went in, because obviously the stadium was full of Arsenal fans, the place just went deathly quiet. It was almost bizarre in how quickly it flipped from like amazing atmosphere because there's 60 odd thousand Arsenal fans, and then just silence when those two goals ended up going in.
You surprised Tomiyasu didn't start?
Yeah, no, very. I thought it was a Tomiyasu game. I thought the only reason he wasn't risked in my mind must be a fitness thing. Maybe it's a case of Arteta thinks, well, I'd rather give him 60 minutes against Villa and then all of the away leg than possibly risk him at home where, in theory, we should have more control of the game state. And someone like Kiwior, who is Man City aside, where I think he looked a little bit shaky, he's been very, very good when he's come in as that kind of defensive left-back alternative. So it was a bit of a show of faith in Kiwior that I think kind of unfortunately backfired, really.
It's just to clarify that. You think Tomiyasu will come in against Villa?
I mean, as like fitness permitting, I think he should. I think he's our best left back. Certainly against teams with wingers who can go quite direct, I would always like to see him in there.
I.e., like with Lee's team's got Leon Bailey. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think you'll turn it round? I mean, you're not behind, but I think you know what I mean. You were probably hoping for an advantage.
Yeah. I think if we can, it's tough to say because in my mind, I want to say if we can eradicate the mistakes that, in air quotes, cost us this first leg, then yes, because I think we are the better football team. And I think we showed it on balance that we were the team capable of producing more consistent quality moments. So if I look at it from that lens, yeah, I think we definitely can do it. It's just whether within the space of a week, Arteta or the players or whomever the responsibility falls to, it's a bit of both. If they're able to find out why those lapses of concentration happened and get rid of them, because it's nothing tactically, it's nothing technically in terms of the players or anything like that. It's not fitness or anything like that. So yeah, it's that mentality that we need to kind of sort out.
Did you watch the game yourself, Lee?
Yeah, I watched it, and the City game had a bit of dual screening going on. I thought Arsenal deserved it but I thought Sane caused a lot of problems. And Bayern were probably good value to at least get a couple of goals. But yeah, another night, I think Arsenal win comfortably.
Okay. How are you feeling about your own European adventure? You kind of hit the business end now, which we always thought you would. Quarter final. It's not the easiest tie against Lille. What's your expectations?
It's not. I think bookies make them third favourites overall.
That's right. Yeah.
Second leg away from home, not ideal. And should we make the semi-final, the second leg will be away from home as well. So no, it's not an easy draw by any means. And we've seen this season throughout that at Villa Park we tend to be pretty good, and away from home is where we've struggled a lot of the time, whether that's in Europe or in the Premier League. So yeah, not massively confident. We should beat Lille, but I don't think it's going to be straightforward.
We've only lost 5 games in Ligue 1, currently 4th at the moment. It hasn't been easy for you in every home game this year, Lee.
No, I mean, the wheels have maybe not come off, but they've certainly started wobbling the last few weeks. 1 win in 5 in the Prem. That's not Champions League form. And we've dropped under that sacred 2 points per game in the last 5 matches as well, which we've been pretty consistently on that all season until now.
Can you foresee a circumstance? I know, like, for example, Douglas Luiz obviously suspended this weekend now, and that's obviously a key player for you. But can you foresee a circumstance where you might rotate a little bit at Arsenal, like you did at Manchester City? Almost like that was a free hit. Let's get through in Europe, make sure we beat Bournemouth next week. Can you foresee that?
I think there'll certainly be some rotation. Emery, clearly, based on the City game, has trust in the squad, and he wants to give minutes to these fringe players like Zaniolo, Duran, Irobanum. So yeah, I wouldn't be that surprised if we saw a couple of those come in.
Can you foresee a priority between the two competitions?
Yeah, I think Champions League qualification's the priority. I think Emery's astute enough to know the financial implications of that, and he'll have the owners in his ear saying, like, yeah, we'd love a trophy, but ultimately the bigger prize financially for the long-term security of the club is getting in that Champions League.
I guess with that in mind, you were supporting Arsenal on Tuesday night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Supporting every English team in Europe and supporting every team that's playing against a German team.
So I'm tempted to do that, mate, honestly. None of that, mate. None of that at all. No, I understand it. But in terms of that development, you're saying, yeah, priority Champions League. But in all seriousness, if Arsenal were to knock Bayern out and then, say, West Ham knock Leverkusen out as well, you're in the Champions League, mate, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because it will go to 5th.
I don't see United catching us now. I mean, they've done it so many times with whether it's late comebacks in 90 minutes or late comebacks and overtaking us in the league. But surely this time they can't do it. I don't think. When they were beating Chelsea, and obviously we all know what happened there, I was sort of thinking, maybe, you never know if this really is the point where they kick on and put a string of wins together. But after losing that Chelsea game in such fashion, no, touch wood, I think we're good. I think we're good for the top 5 now.
They're 11 points behind you with 1 game in hand.
Yeah.
They can get to 70. 10 points with a much better goal difference as well is all you need. Do you think you'll get 10 points from the 6 games left? For clarity, the fixtures are Arsenal away, Bournemouth at home, Chelsea at home, Brighton away, Liverpool at home, and Crystal Palace away. I have you, Lee, bottom of my ticker from now till the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It's not a nice set of fixtures. I think we'll be about that, about 10 points probably from those remaining 6. We should be beating Bournemouth at home, Brighton, Chelsea, Palace, and then I suppose Liverpool and Arsenal are just free hits. Having said that, though, Monday night, Liverpool coming to Villa Park. We saw what happened when City came to Villa Park for an evening match. The crowd will be well up for that. And if we need to win in 37,
and Arsenal, in fairness,
wouldn't put it past us. Yeah, and Arsenal.
I mean, you were a bit more fortunate that night than you were against City. You were incredible.
Yeah. But the evening crowd at Villa Park, it can be really intimidating. So you never know.
Adam, you got 7 games left. I presume you'll get more than 10 points for you.
I bloody well hope so. I mean, if not, I don't think I'm coming back on the pod. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have you back, mate.
Oh, yeah, I'll be booked in every day for a month.
If you get 21 points, this is your last appearance, mate.
Yeah. Me and Clayton do a title special, I'm sure.
Not on my podcast, you ain't.
Yeah. No, I think looking at our fixtures, the one that I am probably, if I look at it on paper, I think we should win them all, really. I think we're better and capable of winning them all. It's going back to sort of a little bit like what we were talking about with the buying game. It's going away to Old Trafford that I am kind of, especially after the result they had against Liverpool, it's where I'm a little bit apprehensive. Not worried, but recognizing that weird things can happen when you play them if they like almost dragging you down to their level, and they make the game a little bit chaotic, and they take it away from what Arsenal will want to do, is like kind of a very structured, composed approach like we saw away at the Etihad. Then I'm kind of a little bit apprehensive about that.
Okay, let me throw you a carrot then and make you feel better about that fixture at Manchester United in game week 37. These just said probably Champions League out the running. Now, let's assume that neither my team or Villa completely fall off a cliff, and Manchester United are incapable of winning 4 games in between now and then, which they might do because on the 4 fixtures they could win them all. That's still going to leave them probably behind. Let's say that the Champions League is not reachable for them, which at this stage looks very unlikely. And you've won all your games between now and then, and they know that stopping you is going to put the title in Liverpool's or City's hands. Do you think they're that bothered, mate? He's frozen, isn't he? I mean, it's tough going, isn't it?
That was a hard question. Maybe he's just thinking about it.
It's obviously a very hard question. I mean, he looks great, doesn't he? Bless him. I mean, in fact, he looks quite sad. I was just more upset that he said he was more worried about going to Manchester United and going to Tottenham. Actually,
I was going to say no mention for that trip to your place.
I was going to get there. Oh, look, Adam's disappeared.
He has actually gone now.
Right. Let me give you some hope for that fixture, Adam, in game week 37. So let's assume United can't catch Tottenham or Villa for Champions League place by that point. They're out the running. They might be competing for a Europa League place. But they've won their games in between, but it's gone. You've won all your games. You're still top of the league. What, they're going to deny you to hand the title to City or Liverpool, are they?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of United fans would consider like City probably, ironically, the lesser of those 3 evils. Like I get a lot of stick from United supporting mates, obviously, growing up south of London, I was surrounded by them, who still hold that rivalry in at least, if not more, high regard than the kind of Manchester rivalry. I don't think they're exactly going to roll over as much as fielding Anthony and Maguire might seem like they will.
I mean, they might do that anyway, Adam.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I don't think Anthony won't lie down. He might kind of just spin around in circles.
Very true. I really don't want this same scenario with Tottenham and Manchester City in that midweek, mate. I don't want to be there, mate. I will be, but I don't want to be in that position. We would probably just roll over. I imagine if we'd already qualified for the Champions League, there'd be plenty of Tottenham fans in the ground wanting City to win.
Yeah, which
I can imagine that genuinely.
Yeah, no, and I was going to say I understand that. I wouldn't exactly understand going to a football match and wanting your team to lose. But yeah,
No, I just mean under the circumstance where our result would be inconsequential completely, i.e., we know that 5th place is enough for a Champions League, for example. That's all I mean by that.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I was going to say fingers crossed it comes down to that. I mean, I hope miraculously City and Liverpool lose every game over the next few weeks, so it doesn't need to. But I doubt that will happen.
Yeah, I doubt that will happen. Also, very interestingly, Adam, you said United away was the game you're most worried about. I might clip that out if you get beat by my team in Gameweek 35.
I thought you might bring that up.
You thought I might.
Yeah,
Bloody hell.
I dangled that fishing rod. I was expecting maybe a few nibbles. Yeah, no, I'm wary of saying anything that's going to bite me in the arse.
Don't give Nico anything to feed.
I think, Adam, you may have already done that.
Yeah, okay. Well, now I've got nothing to lose then. Yeah, I obviously Tottenham are a good attacking team. I just think defensively the structure is, I don't think it's improved significantly, at least from what I've seen over the course of the season. And I think Arsenal are a much better team than we were when we played you at the Emirates, during which I think you were good value for a draw. But obviously in that game, we lost Declan Rice, which I think was a big factor there. And I think set pieces as well. I think our set pieces will be too much for you to handle. So I'm not saying it's going to be a 4-5-0 win, but I don't look at it as tactically as kind of, essentially in the United game, I have a worry that tactics could go out the window and it could just become like a vibes off and who knows what happens. Whereas I don't think that will happen in the Tottenham game.
You think you'll win every game left?
Will and should are two very different things. I think we should win every game left. Whether we will depends on obviously what happens with the Champions League, injuries, all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if we lost that Old Trafford game, to be honest.
I mean, we mentioned about Villa and potentially making a priority. I realise you're obviously going to want to win both competitions. I look at things like Wolves away, though, being in mind it's Villa Sunday, Bayern away Wednesday, Wolves Saturday night, Chelsea Tuesday. Something like that at Wolves, I'd look at it now and think, yeah, you definitely win. But do you take a chance going there, do you think, and potentially rotate some players?
Well, I guess it depends on what kind of level of rotation you have. Because, I mean, I think core players like Declan Rice are very unlikely to get much rest between now and the end of the season. I think he's probably had all of that. Where you look at kind of up front, could we see Jesus starting over Havertz? Yeah, like Trossard and Martinelli. I'm sure there'll be a couple of games where like maybe Trossard starts and Martinelli doesn't. Smith Rowe maybe is back in contention now for a starting place in some of the kind of air quotes easier fixtures. There's the left back spot where we can definitely rotate Zinchenko, Kivi, or Tomiyasu. I don't think Ben White will get a rest. Saliba and Gabriel definitely won't. And yeah, maybe
Definitely.
Who are you putting in for them is the question.
I mean, could you at Wolves, for example, play Kivior left-sided centre back and play Tomiyasu or Zinchenko at left back?
I wouldn't be comfortable with that. I don't think.
Okay.
There's no.
Why?
comment.
Just for clarity, in a fixture like Wolves away.
I think the spine of the team has been possible. I guess maybe the best spine in the Premier League this season. If you're looking at the centre-back partnership of Gabriel and Saliba, I think has probably been the best centre-back partnership. I think you've got Declan Rice in front of them. Has probably been one of the best players in the league this season. I just think they're so crucial in terms of our defensive line positioning, the spacing between midfield, the way we build up from the back as well. I wouldn't want to see them benched in any game, really.
So I'll take it these core players, just for clarity here. We're saying the goalkeeper, Raya.
Yep.
We're saying White, Saliba, Gabriel, Rice, Odegaard, Saka.
Saka, maybe not.
Okay.
Like, if for example, if you want to look at that Wolves game, if he got 45 minutes and came off at half time, I wouldn't be totally shocked.
Well, I think there'll be more of that, won't there? Like if you stay in the Champions League, particularly if you go 3-0 up, he's not just going to keep playing 90 minutes in a game like that. He's going to come off earlier, like he did at Brighton, right?
Yeah, that would be what I suspect.
Do you think that scenario changes if you go to extra time against Bayern?
In what way?
Well, you've got 120 minutes then. And a lot of those guys will play the 120 minutes, won't they? Then Wolves 3 days later and Chelsea another 3 days later. This is a laced question, Adam, with double game week 34 in mind for the FPL listeners.
Yeah. So I guess essentially what you're asking is which are in the worst case scenario in terms of minutes, which are the 3 most rotation proof players? And I would go back to Saliba, Gabriel, White, Raya as probably like tier 1. Ødegaard like slightly below that, but only very slightly. And then Saka slightly below him, and then Havertz, I guess, if people are considering him. I doubt there's much ownership amongst the rest of the Arsenal players. Like I wouldn't be advising anyone to go and get Martinelli ahead of the double game week, for example.
Lee, what strategy are you on at the moment, FPL wise?
So wildcard 35, bench boost 37. Used my free hit in 29.
Okay, so you're heading towards 34.
Yeah.
Any Arsenal on board at the moment?
Yeah, Gabriel, Saliba, Saka.
So that's your 3 locked in. And I'm going to guess from that position, you're obviously pretty happy with that, I'd presume.
Yeah. I was looking a few weeks ago and thinking, do I want to pivot to getting Ødegaard in and dropping the double defence? But the double defence has been great the last few weeks, hasn't it?
I can't see any reason for you, because you're going to want to target other things. I can't see any reason to force that change. No, that's perfectly reasonable. Do you think on wildcard in 35, you'll have any Arsenal?
What have they got?
Get
Spurs
yourself
away,
off of
Bournemouth,
FPL team.
Man U, Everton. Probably not. I don't know. Maybe the defence, because there's very few clean sheets coming from elsewhere. I could at least have one of maybe Gabriel or Saliba in there, I think.
Do you want that as part of a bench boost in 37, though? When Adam's just said Manchester United's the toughest game they got left.
Yeah, I don't think I'd mind bench boosting with one of them, because you've got goal threat as well, even if it is Man United away. It's not ideal, but I think we put too much focus on bench boost. If they've got Bournemouth at home and Everton at home either side of that, it's fine.
Adam, what strategy are you on?
Wildcard 35. I don't have a free hit left.
So you're heading towards 34. So what Arsenal on board for you?
Ødegaard, Saka, and Gabriel.
Okay, that's interesting. You got the double offensive. Mm-hmm. Have you had any temptation to change that, or are you just sticking with that as well?
Yes, I don't have Son, which has been a pretty big issue for me over the past few weeks. But that kind of, I've missed the boat on that now, really, I think. So yeah, I'm happy to stick with it as a bit of a differential approach.
I mean, the only one that really hurt you not having Heung-min Son was surely when he hauled at Aston Villa, no? Yeah,
well, I don't know. Maybe it feels like even last week when he got the assist, it's a big kind of impact just because of his ownership. And not having any Tottenham players at all, it's a bit of a hit.
You say something.
Guess who sold Son the week he scored against Tottenham?
Did
Villa.
you?
For a -4.
You deserved it. You deserved it. What about this wild card for you then, Adam, in 35? You're not going to want to go without Arsenal for that period, are you?
No, I would think I'd probably keep 3.
Even 3, and that's with the bench boost 37, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I think reasonable, like, I think you can kind of overlook the fact that I think the North London derby will be a high-scoring game. I think the Bournemouth and Everton games, I'm just lining myself up for so many clips here. The Bournemouth and Everton games at home should be relatively comfortable wins. I think those fixtures are decent from an attacking point of view.
I can't argue that.
So yeah, whether I stick with Ødegaard or whether I kind of get enough of a sense, depending obviously on what happens with the Champions League, on the consistency with which someone like Havertz might start, then and I kind of might take a look at that.
I'd say what really changes the narrative, I think, for Wildcard 35ers is if people want you, and then you've got a scenario where you've got a Champions League semi-final against Manchester City specifically as well, I think. And those ties are on a Wednesday and a Tuesday, either side of Bournemouth at home in 36.
Yeah, I think
then you are potentially picking a team against Bournemouth that was similar to the team against Luton, aren't you?
Yeah, I think if that was the case, you probably wouldn't catch me with 3 players. I think then it would just be Gabriel and Saka.
Would that change if it was Real Madrid instead of Manchester City under that scenario?
That's a tricky one. Yes, potentially. I would worry that Arteta would kind of go into like a mind palace kind of scenario and just think of nothing day and night but a Manchester City Champions League semi-final and almost forget that the other games were happening and just like you get the under-12s running out. Or yeah, I think it's more than just a game, if that makes sense, that fixture.
Hey, have you ever been in a mind palace before?
A what?
A mind palace. Adam said that Arteta would go into a mind palace. I didn't know if this was a good place or a bad place, Adam.
It's a Sherlock Holmes reference.
Okay.
For those literary folks out there.
There was someone out there that loves that.
You're far more intelligent than me, mate, honestly. Oh, dear. Yeah, I think how that lands, because I'm not bench boosting. I haven't got it. So I'm in a different situation to many in terms of my own wildcard 35, that for me, it's way easier to carry some Arsenal players as part of that and go, yep, definitely use them in 36, 38. I can give or take 35 or 37, basically. But I look at it myself and think, yeah, if you've got City Wednesday, Bournemouth Saturday, City Tuesday, I don't know how attractive is that Bournemouth game all of a sudden, like that, because that's one of the main reasons to hold on, isn't it? If you don't think a Saka's going to play at home to Bournemouth, then there's got to be like alternatives to potentially look at.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I think if you were, for example, if you were owning Ben White, maybe that's a scenario where you get a bit more concerned. But if you've got Raya and Gabriel, for example, or Raya and Saliba or whatever, yeah, maybe I'm putting a jinx on it. I don't see why they would be rotated. They're so crucial. We saw what happened last year when Saliba got injured, and even the, in air quote, easier fixtures on paper became massive issues.
I suppose there's a scenario as well between now and 35 that you could drop out the race. You could also, in theory, near enough win it if City and Liverpool drop points as well, right? But it could go the other way. Those fixtures, I agree with you. I expect you to win all 3 between now and then. But certainly Villa and Chelsea offer challenges. Chelsea have done quite well, actually, in some of the bigger games this year, including against yourself, actually, at Stamford Bridge. And Wolves, although perhaps little to play for, have also been pretty good in home games against some of the bigger clubs this year as well. Could you foresee a scenario if it went wrong over the next week? That, again, it's just, I mean, you wouldn't against Tottenham, obviously, but then the league just gets scrapped then, doesn't it? Say you picked up 1 point for the next 3, hypothetically. You're all in the Champions League if you went through, surely.
Yeah, 100%. But perhaps this is me being naive, because obviously a similar scenario happened last year, and it even happened at the back end of last calendar year. I can't see that happening.
I was going to say 1 point in 3. It wouldn't need to be 1 point in 3. It could be 3 draws, couldn't it? Would be probably good enough to finish you off.
Yeah, and like you say, those are, though. Obviously depending on the results from the other teams, but there is an element of it where it does feel a little bit out of our hands, and almost you've got teams like Tottenham and United who can kind of have a bigger impact in how this title race goes.
Different question then, actually, Adam. How many points do you think you can afford to drop to win the leg?
I think we can afford to drop. I was going to say 4, but I actually don't believe that. I think maybe 2 draws or a loss. And to be honest, I really do think that's pushing it. And the reason why I'm
I
kind
agree.
of,
I think that's pushing it.
and that's kind of the reason why I'm of the mentality where I think we should win all of these games, because on paper we are probably the favoured side, and even though they will be tough, we have to go in to each match with the mentality is that we cannot afford to drop points. It's just it's a non-negotiable, really.
Lee, how many do you think they can afford to drop to win the title?
I think one of the three teams will win all the remaining games. I don't know which one, but I think one of them will probably just win all of them if that momentum starts building. So I don't think you can afford to drop. What would that be if you drew one? Would that blow it? Yeah, it would, wouldn't it?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's more than one.
Mm.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe even two teams in there with
You think
everything left.
You think
We've seen it from City and Liverpool. We've seen it from City and Liverpool before.
Mm.
And that's not saying it won't be you, by the way. I'm just saying they've got the experience at that stage to win near enough every game left.
But that is a valid question, though. You have seen it from City and Liverpool before, and we haven't seen it from Arsenal. And if I'm putting my kind of skeptical negative hat on when that has been needed, or not even when it's been needed from Arsenal, because when we were in the position we had the points advantage on City last year, we didn't need to win every game. We could afford to drop points, but obviously we dropped far too many. So it goes back to that mentality thing.
In terms of league positions, the toughest game you've got left is away to my team. That's also the toughest game left for Man City. Liverpool's toughest away game left is Aston Villa.
Yeah, but no, I think...
And that's not till 37 either, so that comes late.
And you might also have nothing to play for.
Potentially.
And that wasn't a dig, by the way. I meant if fifth is enough for Champions League.
Yeah, and if we're still in the Conference League.
Maybe. Well, yeah, no, exactly. If you've been in the Conference League semi-final as well, then you might be... We kind of saw that with West Ham last year. It was very much just a focus towards the final at that stage for them. And no one would criticise you for that under that circumstance, Lee. How many points do you think you need, Lee, for fourth?
I haven't really given it much thought, but...
Bullshit.
We certainly...
Night and day.
We certainly need to be picking up at least 9, I would say, maybe more.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I think I've said three wins might be enough for my team. We're level. We've got an extra game, but our extra game is Chelsea away, which we never win. And we've got to play all of the top 3 left. You've now got one of them out the way, Lee.
Yeah.
But the games are tough, aren't they? And I suppose not beating Brentford at the weekend has probably done a bit of psychological damage, hasn't it?
Yeah, massively. I mean, 1 win in the last 5 in the Prem. Prior to that, it was 4 wins in 5 in the Prem. So it does feel like we've really hit a bit of a stick in the road. And that Brentford home fixture on paper was a chance to get things back on track. And it didn't transpire. And especially defensively, since Kamara's been out, we just look vulnerable. We're not able to see games out like we were previously. I mean, you look at that Arsenal game at Villa Park earlier in the season, and it was 1-0, and it was a barrage from Arsenal, but we were resolute and we managed to keep them out. Whereas at the moment, when we're getting ahead, we're struggling to keep teams out.
Is it as simple as that, Kamara being absent? Because since he's been out, across that period, you're the 5th worst for expected goals conceded.
Yeah, well, since the start of the year, if you just look at home games, we're the worst for expected goals conceded.
Is that right?
Even worse than Sheffield United, yeah. We've got an XG conceded of 13 in 6 at home.
In home games?
In home games, which is more than Sheffield United.
Just trying to think here. Obviously, look, there was mitigating in terms you went down to 10 men against my team. Newcastle beat you very well. Obviously, Brentford have scored 3 against you at the weekend. What else in there that was big?
We had Forest at home where they scored 2. We won 4-2, but they did score 2. Man United beat us at Villa Park 2-1.
Should have won that game.
Yeah, so there have been a few at Villa Park. So yeah, I don't think it is as simple as just Kamara being out. We've obviously had McGinn suspended for 3 games. We've now got Louise suspended for 2. So there have been players in that midfield, important players that have been missing, as well as Kamara.
How big of a blow was missing John McGinn specifically for the last few?
Huge.
Is that bigger than missing Douglas Luiz now for the next 2?
No, I think Louise is bigger. They're both incredibly important. They both start every game when they're fit. but Louise more so than McGinn. Louise, I think it was telling that on 9 yellow cards, he didn't take Louise off in that Brentford game. And it was a gamble because he thought Louise is probably our most likely way of creating something or creating an opportunity for someone to create something. That tells you all you need to know about how important Louise is. The fact he didn't sub him off despite the fact he was on 9 yellows.
97th minute yellow card in the 32nd game.
Brutal.
Adam, Arsenal fans think they're unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, we are in sometimes, but yeah, that's a pretty fortunate one. I don't.
You've been interested in him, haven't you? You've been linked to him a few times.
Yeah. I think most heavily last January, around the time where there were the Caicedo links. I think it was even talk that we might have put in a bid, but that was kind of not entirely kind of validated by some of the more trustworthy sources at the club. And I think we'll probably be interested in him again in the summer, I would imagine.
Do you see him being sold in the summer, Lou?
He could be. There's reports around the whole PSA that we do need to sell in the summer, or at least it would help us if we were to shift someone. Could it be a Ramsey that's come through the academy? Bearing in mind we've now got Morgan Rogers that's maybe lined up as a bit of a replacement for Ramsey. Some people have speculated. Or Louise or a Kamara, one of them. If Emery's got the trust in Irobanum that he is going to be ready next season to step up, then yeah, maybe it could be Louise. I hope it's not, though. I think he's absolutely class. Really like him.
Yeah, I think for clarification, Villa qualifying for Champions League doesn't mean that the club don't need to sell. That seems to be the word on the street. That it probably only needs to be one, but probably one decent homegrown sale, possibly before the end of June, may need to happen. Because obviously qualifying for Champions League is not going to go on this financial year's accounts.
No, exactly.
Is he definitely injured?
Who?
Ramsey.
Yeah, he's out for the season. They came out last week and said.
No, I know that. Is he definitely injured?
Oh, I see. Yeah, don't know. Like that conspiracy theory, maybe. Who knows?
I know a club that certainly goes circling for these clubs that seem to be close to points deductions. I'm just saying. Ollie Watkins available or not? Me and Arsenal both need a 9. I mean, well, you don't, Adam. You seem to be close to win the league without one, but I could do with one. Could you see a big bid for Watkins being accepted under that circumstance?
If it's big enough, yeah. I think from what we've seen from Duran this season, he's certainly got the makings of a really good striker. So, and he plays in the same way as Watkins. He does the running. He's not just a target man who's going to be on the end of things. Danny Ings.
I thought he was really good at the Etihad.
Yeah,
and if you look good there, that tends to show something good about a player. Actually, is Watkins still knocking about in your FPL team, Lee? Because I know you were quick to tell all our patrons last weekend. I told you not to sell him.
I wish he was. It's like you, mate. I don't take my own advice. I just advise other people with things to do.
So I'm going to guess then there's no Villa on board now, is there? Or is there?
No Villa. And probably no Villa to the end of the season.
I mean, on your scenario of wildcard 35, could you make any case with Chelsea, Brighton, Liverpool and Palace away, could you make any case to invest in anything Villa there under that circumstance?
If you need a budget enabler, then maybe Louise coming back from his suspension, or a Bailey if you needed it, if you had the money. But you're just going to go for Palmer if you've got that sort of price.
Those who've got Louise are 2-game ban of selling, aren't they?
Exactly. No, it's only the wildcarders 35 that could look at it and go, yeah. But no, I think most will go with that, and that's fair enough. Equally, though, I think if there's anyone that doesn't have any chips left and they've got Watkins, it's not a hard sell. Like, you don't have to get rid. He's fine.
It's not. He's not. I'm free hitting 34, and he's not out my thinking.
No.
When I look at the forwards available in 34, like Nunes appeals on the face of it because of a double, but how much of the double is he actually going to get? We might know a bit better this time next week. Solanke's got a double, but that includes a trip to yourselves, although that Villa home XGC certainly had some weight potentially. But the other game is also away to Wolves. I think Solanke would definitely go in. I wouldn't rule Watkins out. It'd be affordable for free hitters. Home to Bournemouth. I mean, or would you? Oh, I've got to go for a double. I've got to go for Cunha, who one of his games is against the best defense in the league. Yes, I said that, Adam.
Nah, I don't like Cunha.
Would you rather go Watkins under that scenario?
Rather than Cunha, yeah, definitely.
Are you free?
He's just been.
Or you said you're heading that way, so I guess you won't buy back, will you?
Yeah, I don't have free hit, so no, probably not.
Yeah, he's not out the running for me, Watkins, because that ownership's so low now that I don't mind it. Rather than just you spoke about obviously having Arsenal players as part of a bench boost in 37. And what's wrong with having? Is he still the highest scoring player in the game? Ollie Watkins, home to Bournemouth on a free hit.
201 points, yeah.
When most people won't have him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't ruled that out. I mean, the only thing with that would be I'd be very conscious of the minutes, bearing in mind you play Lille away on the Thursday in the second leg in the Conference League before. Like if you went to extra time in that, then it's a no suddenly, I think.
Touch wood though, historically, Watkins is a fitness monster, like 90 every week.
Do you think he's carrying something at the moment? I mean, it didn't look that way on Saturday.
Maybe. No, it didn't. But yeah, he did obviously miss the City game and half the Wolves game with a knock. So yeah, the only other thing to throw in with Watkins is he's now got 18 goals in a Premier League season. He's one off our Premier League record, which I think he would want to beat. And he could be the first Villa player to ever get 20 in a Premier League season.
Right, you never scored 20 for you?
18.
Oh, quite surprised.
Benteke holds our record at 19.
Benteke was great for you. I wanted him.
He was amazing.
I'm happy
he was so good for us.
Openly admit that. Fortunately, we had a young kid come through. I don't know what happened to him, actually. I mean, he scored at your place in a week, Adam. Have you got any Villa left, Adam?
So I sold Ollie Watkins, obviously, when everyone else did, for Isaac. Somehow Moreno is still in my team. I'm really not sure what he's doing there. I think I've just had other priorities. And I think he'll just sit third on my bench this week, and I'll deal with him on wildcard, I think.
I mean, you could play him in 34 though, right? It's the same thing, I suppose, especially if Luca Dean was to play the second leg in France before the Bournemouth game. Yeah,
I just don't know. I don't know if that's something I kind of want to risk, really, given he's coming on anyway, even if he's not starting. Yeah, true. I think I'll just leave him.
How do you see that battle, Lee, for those that are still kind of debating that, Dean versus Moreno?
Avoid both.
No, I don't.
I've given up now trying.
But who do you think is just generally first choice? Because there's a relevance to that in terms of playing Saka this weekend, right?
Yeah, I prefer Moreno personally, but Emery's shown that he still really likes Dean, and it seems to be a coin toss each week. It's getting really hard to predict which one's going to start. But yeah, I like Moreno personally.
I hope it's Dean this weekend. I'll just say that.
Go on, Adam, elaborate.
I just don't think he's that good, to be honest. I don't rate him that highly at all. Yeah, especially defensively, 1-on-1. I think Saka could cook him pretty easily.
He's been good for us this season. He's been better this year than he was previously for us.
How's the two centre backs doing? Is this Carlos and Pau Torres? Is that going to stick now? Is it?
It's hard to call. I think Torres definitely sticks, but we know Carlos has had a lot of injuries, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if you saw Longley drop in for a game here or there. Or if Cash is fit, then you could see Cash come in and Conte back in the middle alongside Torres that we saw earlier in the season. From a defensive point of view, the only ones that you can really rely on are Torres and Conte. But looking at our fixtures and what I've already said about the expected goals conceded, I wouldn't go for any Villa. I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, you're not looking. I'm still a Leon Bailey owner, Lee. And he's not done too badly for me, actually. That's a bench this week, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, if you can.
Obviously, subject to other personnel, but there's no particular reason why I should be looking to start him, is there?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's always a chance, isn't there, on a counter-attack? We know Arsenal will probably have most of the possession. They'll have the territory. Someone with Bailey's pace or Diaby's pace can get in behind, but no, I think there's probably better options for most if you can bench him.
Adam, there's no reason why I should start him, is there?
No, yeah. I think if you've probably got better options this week, I think.
Yeah, probably. But I'm also mindful there might be a bit of rotation. There's obviously some injury doubts knocking about the likes of Phil Foden, etc. at the time of recording. I mean, he's sitting first on my bench at the moment, and admittedly, I've got 2 free transfers, and he's probably getting sold. I think, though. I'm probably going to Mbumo. There's no reason why I shouldn't do that, is there?
No.
No. Okay. If I'm looking for a 1 week Arsenal punt, Adam, for this week, offensively,
Um,
I don't own any of them. And Saka is probably not reachable unless Foden is confirmed out.
well, I guess then budget will come into it. I mean, I think Erdegaard will start. That's a useful bit of information. I would like to see Trossard start. I don't know whether he will. If we get any sort of information that he might, then I think that would be a really nice 1 week punt in the midfield. I didn't think Havertz had a terrible game against Bayern, but I don't think he was at his best. And Jesus came on and made a really positive impact again. So wouldn't be too surprised if it was a Saka, Jesus, Trossard front line. That wouldn't shock me too much. But yeah, I think that there might be a bit of rotation on that kind of left side of that attack.
Trossard feels like the form horse after the last couple of cameo appearances, maybe.
Yeah, but it's a question of whether he's played himself into that role of, is he just better as a substitute, which he's shown himself not just this season but previously to be very effective off the bench. And to be honest, he started the season not looking too great. So it's good to see him come back into some shape of form. But yeah, if we get word that he's starting, I think he'd be a nice pickup.
How would that match up, Lee? Trossard against CotC?
I mean, I was at the Etihad for Grealish versus CotC playing out right in front of us in the away end, and one-on-one CotC is superb against anyone. He might get caught out positionally occasionally or in the air, but as one-on-one when the ball's on the ground, he doesn't get dribbled past. So yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned.
I guess the question would be there is if we try and recreate but do better the unsuccessful tactic from what happened in the reverse fixture where Martinelli got through on that right. I know it won't be the same team, obviously, but Martinelli had so much space on Arsenal's left-hand side so many times, and we just never seemed to be able to take advantage of it. Either the ball didn't go through or Martinelli wasn't able to kind of click in terms of that final pass in the attacking third. Yeah, perhaps there's a potential that Arsenal could exploit that, certainly pace mismatch.
Yeah. The other thing I think that could be a concern is set pieces. We've been bad with set pieces this season, and we know how good Arsenal are. If anyone's got Saliba or Gabriel, wouldn't have any issues starting them this week. You could easily see them get an attacking return, never mind a clean sheet.
I don't think anyone was benching him, Lee, in fairness. A few of us tried that at Man City, and I think we learned not to do that again. There definitely people banged their heads against the wall, did it again against Brighton last week. I think that lesson's probably been learned by now. Could you see a Jorginho rest here, Adam? Perhaps a deeper role for Declan Rice in this particular fixture?
Potentially, yeah. I think there are times when games get a bit stretched that you can see that he's not the most mobile, and I think it's kind of obvious. Everyone knows that, and he's not exactly. He's been very good for us, but I wouldn't say he's a core part of the team. So yeah, perhaps it is a situation where you get Jesus coming back in up top. It might be probably too high quality of an opponent for a Smith Rowe, maybe to start as that left 8. So maybe you see Havertz getting sort of 60 minutes as the left side of that midfield 3, and then Rice deeper perhaps.
Okay. One final one from an FPL perspective: is Saka a captaincy consideration this week, Adam?
Not really. Well, I mean, obviously it depends who else you have, but I mean, everyone is likely to have a City attacker. A lot of people will have Haaland, so I think that's number 1. Lots of people will have Salah, so that would be number 2. Then you got Son, even I'd fancy over Saka.
So you wouldn't, if someone said to you, Son Saka, you'd say no this week? Because there's got to be people debating that, actually.
Do you think?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it's just psychological, isn't it? The way you're playing, home fixture, Tottenham are away.
But Tottenham are away to Newcastle, who even
Kept
though
a
it's
clean sheet last week.
they did, but they also shipped a bunch of goals to West Ham. So I don't think Newcastle away is as intimidating a fixture as it was at the start of the season, given their defensive injuries and general kind of drop off might be too harsh, sorry, but certainly plateau in form.
I'll remember that when we're 4-0 down on Saturday lunchtime when I'm sitting in the gods up at St James's Park.
And I won't care because you'll be 4-0 down, so I'll be happy.
No, absolutely. I'm going to bite my lip now. Lee, who's going to win the league?
City.
Adam?
If it's not Arsenal, it'll be Liverpool.
Interesting.
Go on, just clarify that comment on just the Liverpool bit. Why rather than City?
Because I think it's become a bit of a battle of styles and approaches to games, and I think if a team isn't going to win it, who are looking to kind of control and almost like completely neutralize the opposition from a game state perspective, which I think Arsenal are on form rather are the better team than City at doing that, then it'll be Liverpool. There's something they just never seem to be out of a game, even if I don't think they look kind of as structured as Arsenal. I think, yeah, there's just something going on there.
Don't have as much control as you or City,
No.
which I think the point on that is it's not to say it's a bad thing, not at all, but you're more liable to get more variance, I think, in what happens in their games, a la how have they not won at Manchester United on Sunday?
Yeah, well, exactly, and I think that's why I'm coming at it from the two perspectives. That it's almost like kind of control versus attack, if you want to frame it like that. Like you say, Liverpool allow more variance, but they kind of trust their overwhelming press and counter press and attacking talent is going to take them through. And if that style of football isn't capable of winning these remaining games, then I think it will be Arsenal. Not to say City are ruled out, obviously, but yeah, it's kind of how I'm seeing it.
If you win at our place, Adam, you'll win it.
Don't.
Who do you think's going to win it, James?
Yeah, because in all seriousness, I think what you actually said about the North London derby, I think is right. I think the small margins on things like set pieces and your counter punching, actually, as long as you're smart defensively, which you've shown you can be, obviously, in some of these big away games, then it would be right to make you favourites that night, no question. But also, when I look at the fixtures at the moment, I'll be honest, mine's the only team I see beating you.
Well, and to be honest, I think if we kind of reverse engineer that in how we've talked about how Liverpool approach games, I think you've got a better chance of beating a team like Liverpool than you do of beating Arsenal. And we've seen, in theory, you shouldn't have that kind of same difference when playing City, but we've seen that fixture in the past can kind of go a little bit all over the place, and they, for some reason, don't know how to play you guys. So yeah, I think of the top three teams, you're almost weirdly least likely from a stylistic matchup point of view to take points off of Arsenal. Not to say that you can't, but
no, but there's the intensity element of that game. Like us playing Liverpool and City is not going to be the same as how we play you. It's not, mate.
No. That's very true. But I think we showed last season that maybe in terms of the North London derby, we might have turned a corner there.
Hopefully, it was a one-off. Is your chance to get revenge on Lee, Adam? Who's going to finish fourth?
I think Spurs will. I think, yeah. Villa's form is, I'd say, concerning. From a Villa fan, I would be concerned by the form. Douglas Luiz's suspension as well. Obviously not ideal. Ollie Watkins, you hope and kind of maintain his fitness, but like you guys were saying earlier, I think Duran has played very, very well when he's come in. But I think Spurs seem to be able to kind of keep pulling rabbits out of various hats.
Shut up, bruv. Lee, who's finishing fourth?
If you'd have asked me a few weeks ago, I'd have said Villa. I think it's going to be really close now, though. I'll say Villa just because I like to be optimistic, but it's going to be really tough.
I'll say Villa because I like to be optimistic. Sounded like you really meant that, mate. I think that if we can get a couple of results in some of these, I mean, look, there's some mad difficult games that we particularly have got in there. Actually, it feels even more so than you now. Actually, if we can get some points in, if we can win like either of Newcastle or Chelsea away, then or if we beat Arsenal, for example, then I think it would probably be us under that circumstance.
I was going to say, if you come out of those next 4 games with 2 wins, I think you should be very, very happy because that is not a nice run.
No, it's abysmal. Obviously, we know that. I think you need to get back ahead, Lee.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of the way the games and the fixtures now manipulate, we should have to be chasing you all the way. So you've got to get back in front. And there's obviously a chance this weekend if we get something at Newcastle, then there's obviously a chance you're going to be behind with us having a game in hand, which then that you've got to beat Bournemouth under that circumstance after that, and then probably beat Chelsea at home as well, probably, to then give yourself a proper advantage back again. Cheers, gents. Really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. Let's do correct score predictions for Sunday afternoon. Adam?
I will go 2-0 to Arsenal.
Late.
Exactly the same. I had 2-0 Arsenal.
Yeah, full house. I see it being pretty routine. I felt like it would be routine when you went to City as well, Lee. It's not a knock on you. I just feel like you're trying to manage your priorities a little bit. And I think with the Conference League quarterfinal either side, which I know is a big game for the club, yeah, I think the priority is probably not with Sunday, and Louise's suspension as well is massive.
That's just the final nail, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Gents, thank you both so much. Adam, anything you want to plug before we finish?
No. Follow me on Twitter if you dare at 350.
With cheese puns and moaning about referee decisions. And for yourself, Lee?
Yeah, same. So Twitter, Lee_Jackson_92. And don't forget to sign up to Patreon.
Obviously, Adam didn't get the brown envelope this week. Cheers, Lee. Thanks, mate. You don't do cheese puns, do you, Lee?
No, never.
No.
Just Captain Hindsight when people sell Ollie Watkins.
What, like you?
Yeah, exactly.
Cheers, gents. Good stuff. No deadline stream for me on Saturday because I'm obviously heading up to Newcastle. So not the deadline stream, 6 o'clock on Friday evening. There are 2 more Clash of the Correspondents for you next week, all featuring doublers ahead of Game Week 34 next Tuesday. Bournemouth at Wolves with Bradley Parker and Neil Grover. And then next Friday evening, for the first time, yes, I managed to force them to agree to it. It is Everton versus Liverpool, Merseyside derby with Sean Norton and Dan Lord. That'll be available for you next Friday evening. Just leaves me to say thanks so much to Adam and Lee. Good luck, gentlemen. Especially you on Sunday, Lee. And honestly, cue music, please. Man child.